Hello, and welcome to another webinar brought to you by Skyrocket. In today's webinar, we're going to take a detailed module overview of Algebra 1 and 2. I am your presenter, Hazel Rios. I am an instructional coach at Skyrocket. If you'd like more training on Edmentum, please feel free to access our digital course through Skyrocket EdPD. Skyrocket EdPD is available through Okta. On today's agenda is the detailed module overview of Edmentum Algebra 1 and 2. There are about 4 modules per unit in each course of Algebra 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B. Let's go ahead and take a look at each of these. As you can see, we have Algebra 1 Semester A here, and this is version 7. This is the most up-to-date version that Edmentum has released. As we go through, I will show you the differences in modules within these courses. I have expanded all of the units, and here we have Unit 1, the modules followed by the unit activity, extra practice, and a post-test. Unit 2 followed by the modules, unit activity, extra practice, and a post-test. Unit 3, same. Unit 4, same. And Unit 5. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at Unit 5, Systems of Inequalities. As you can see here on the left, we have a toolbox. In this toolbox, you have a table of contents, a resource folder, which may include guided notes, an extra set of notes, some videos, some articles, and a glossary. In this particular module, we only have guided notes and a glossary. We have a dictionary, reading tools, translation tool, a calculator, math tools such as graphing, and a highlighter. These can be accessed in any module throughout the course. In Edmentum Algebra 1A and 1B, because they are the newest versions, they have made this course very interactive. The students are able to interact with the lesson. They have terms embedded in here with definitions. They have checks for understanding. And they have lesson activities. Within these lesson activities, we have learning going on. These are not graded, however, they are discovery-based and investigative. Therefore, the students are highly encouraged to try their best since there is learning going on within these lesson activities. Students are not allowed to move forward without completing these. More checks for understanding. Many examples. Another lesson activity. And a summary. Within the same module, we have a practice. This practice is questions parallel to those on the mastery test. This practice is not graded. However, students will see practice questions just like the questions they will see on the test. And finally, the mastery test. The mastery test is graded, and students will have already seen questions similar to this on the application piece. Notice that within the mastery test, they do not have any tools available to them. It is very important that they do the learning within the tutorial and use as many tools and resources available to them at that time. We strongly recommend that students keep a notebook for this course. The unit activity within Algebra 1A and 1B are also interactive. We will go over those more in detail in another webinar. There's extra practice embedded and the post-test. Here we have Algebra 1 Semester B version 7. This is the most up-to-date version that Edmentum has released. Since it is version 7 and the most up-to-date version, we have a very well organized, very detailed, very user-friendly lesson embedded within these modules. We have extra practice before the mastery test and extra practice before the post-test. Keep in mind that the students' grades come from the mastery test in each module, the unit activity in each unit, and the unit post-test. Since they have this extra practice available, they are able to see problems parallel to the post-test before taking the post-test. The remaining units are similar in structure, and at the end of the course, we have our end of course survey. Please have students take this, as it is important feedback for us. Here we have Algebra 2 Semester A version 6. Let's take a look at a tutorial. So you may notice we have a toolbox here on the left that is not exactly the same as the one in Algebra 1A or 1B. We still have a table of contents. We still have a resource folder. In this particular module, it is empty. We have a dictionary, reading tool, translation tool, and a highlighter. You may notice that the calculator and graphing tools are not available in this toolbox. You can see that the layout is slightly different from that of Algebra 1A and 1B. However, the lesson with examples for each concept is still here. We have checks for understanding. It is not as interactive as Algebra 1A or 1B. However, it does provide some resources. Students are expected to answer these questions using these tools here on the left. Once students have entered their response, it will alert them whether they are correct or incorrect. If they are incorrect, it will allow them to try again. Once they have answered whether it is correct or incorrect the second time, on the second attempt, it will give them the answer with a detailed explanation and workout example. Next, students will go through a series of checks for understanding.
Here's a problem for you.
More lessons.
The rules for X.
And a summary. At the end of this particular tutorial, we have more practice questions. Let's go ahead and take a look at an application. The application is the practice before the mastery test. And remember, there is one mastery test per module in each unit. So again, we have a toolbox on the left. Again, it's limited. Before they begin the application, which is the practice problems parallel to those on the mastery test, they are given a review with a short description of the concepts and some rules or examples. Then they get right into these practice problems, which are, again, very similar to those on the mastery test. Let's take a look at the mastery test. In this mastery test, our toolbox is even more limited. When the students answer these, they are expected to answer 8 out of 10 correct, since 80% is mastery in Edmentum. Students will enter their response here. However, will only be given one opportunity to answer because it is the mastery test and it is graded, and will not be given the correct answer. They will simply move on to the next problem. Once they are complete, they will click Save and Exit, and they must click Save and Exit for every item in each module in order to save their work and progress. Let's take a look at a different type of module within the same course. So within this unit, the last module in Unit 1, as you can see, only has 2 items. That is one of the differences between this course, Algebra 2A, and Algebra 1A and Algebra 1B. In this module, as you can see above, we have 3 items: the tutorial, the application, and the mastery test. However, in this module, we only have 2 items: the tutorial and the mastery test. This means that the students are not given an opportunity to see any parallel problems before taking the mastery test. Let's take a look at this tutorial. In this tutorial, we have a toolbox, and as you can see, we do have a graphing calculator and graphing tools. So these have been added back into the toolbox for this particular module. So now these lessons are slightly more interactive with more examples and more detailed lessons. The checks for understanding, again, are interactive. There are also lesson activities embedded within these tutorials. This means that because they are of investigative type, there is learning embedded in these. Even though they are not graded, there is a lot of learning going on here, and we strongly encourage students to seek help and to try their best. Students will not be able to advance in this tutorial unless they submit responses for each of these questions. Once the student has submitted a response, they will then click Submit, and they will see a sample answer. We encourage students to take notes on these sample answers since this is part of the learning for the tutorial. At the end of this lesson activity, there is always a self-evaluation. This is also a required response in order to move forward. More learning, more checks for understanding. They're a little more interactive. Another lesson activity, and a summary. So once again, that is the difference between this module here and this module. The application piece is missing from this module, which means again that they are not able to practice parallel problems to the mastery test before taking that mastery test. Algebra 2 Semester B version 6 is very similar in structure to Semester A, and we will experience some of the same differences as in A. Here we can see a module that has 3 items: the tutorial, the application, and the mastery test. And here we see a module with only 2 items, tutorial and mastery test. I'd like to also point out that in Algebra 2 Semester A, Unit 1 was called Preparing for Algebra 2 Semester A. And in this course, Unit 6 is called Preparing for Algebra 2 Semester B. The reason that we have created these units this way is because we had to customize the course from Edmentum. In Edmentum, the course originally was only 4 units for each semester, and we needed to create 5 units. Therefore, we have pulled some review modules from other courses in order to prepare them for the rest of the semester. So again, in Semester A and in Semester B, the first units are preparation units for the remaining semester. Because of that, we had to customize the unit activity and the unit post-test. Therefore, there is no extra practice embedded in Unit 1 or Unit 6 of Algebra 2. However, the remaining units do have that extra practice embedded within each unit. And of course, the end of course survey, which we again kindly remind you to please have your students complete the survey at the end of the course. This concludes today's webinar. Please watch our next webinar for an Algebra 1 and 2 unit and course activity overview. Thank you so much for joining us.